Alright, everybody, y'all know who it is. Metro Meta, he who shall not be named. And I am here with
at one Marcus Flowers on all social media platforms, aka Flow, aka Call Me What You Want, just don't call me lazy. And if you have been a follower, a listener of this media network for the past eight or so, 9 months, you know who we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the latest Pokémon Direct, which happened on June 5th, 2019. But before that, there was a Pokemon conference. I'm going to let Morgan handle his business with that.
So, they didn't talk about too much during this Pokemon conference. It was mostly just a combination of mobile apps and stuff like Pokemon Sleep. But the three biggest things that I got from it, number one is they're doing a mobile, sort of like Pokemon Legends game where you'll get to see all of the great characters that's been in the show. And I'm really excited for that because, like,
is that a lot like Let's Go when it's just a cash grab, or is it going to be a separate entity like a Detective Pikachu game?
Well, it is a mobile game, so it's going to be limited in scope.
Okay.
But it does feel like it's something. It feels like Pokemon's trying to get a more meatier version of Pokemon into the mobile space because we have Magic Card Jump, you got Pokemon Rumble, you got Pokemon Champions, you got Pokemon Go, and it seems like they're trying to get a more meatier version out there for more hardcore Pokemon fans. And honestly, if you like the anime, it would be a great thing to pick up every once in a while because it has a lot of really great characters across the series. But the biggest thing that I'm excited about is Pokemon Home. Now,
and what exactly is Pokemon Home?
So, Marcus, I don't know, you probably didn't notice this, but during the 3DS era,
right? That is when I definitely fell out.
During the 3DS era, 3DS era. After the DS era, there were so many games coming out, and they were coming out very quickly. You had Pokemon X and Y, then you had Alpha and Sapphire, and then after that, you had Black and White was before that.
Okay.
And then after that, you had there was a lot of Pokemon games. After that, you had Sun and Moon, I believe, or something.
Yeah,
Moon. So what the Pokemon Company did was they made this app for the 3DS, which is called Pokemon Bank. And what Pokemon Bank allowed for you to do is move your Pokemon from game to game as long as they were supported in the game. So you couldn't move your Pokemon backwards in a generation, but you can move them forward. And people love this because, like, breeding's a big part of the Pokemon community, so they've been moving it all over the place. And what Pokemon Home is going to be, and this is super exciting, is Pokemon Home is going to be a mobile app which allows you to connect all of your devices and Pokemon accounts from the recent games and put them in that one app. So you can move over all your Let's Go Pokemon from Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, all your Pokemon Go Pokemon, and all your Pokemon from the 3DS through Pokebank, and then you move them all to this app, and you can move them and put them in the mainline game. And they even discussed and talked about how you could trade your Pokemon from this app, no matter what game it is in. So that's something that is super exciting, especially for someone as me, as I literally have a Ultra Moon cartridge that I am hiding away in my room so that I don't lose it for Pokemon Sword and Shield to move all my Pokemon over.
Right.
So I'm really excited to see what this is. If it falls in line the same way with Pokemon Bank and what they announced, it won't come out till early 2020, which sucks. But I'm super excited for this game.
That's what's up, man. And you forgot to mention this, but Pokemon Home. Can you go a little bit more in depth with that?
That's what I just discussed.
No, you said the bank, not the.
That's Pokemon Home is the expanded version of Pokemon Bank.
Okay, so Pokemon Sleep.
Pokemon Sleep. We don't know much about Pokemon Sleep. It's really relatively all they said is it's a Pokemon Go like app where you get Pokemon and play through how you sleep. It's very much in on the Nintendo bandwagon where, as many people know, Nintendo, they're actually not that big of a company compared to especially their competitors like Microsoft and Sony.
Right.
And so what they tend to, like, even just a couple years ago, there was lots of discussion roaming around that Apple might just buy up Nintendo. Like, that's how Nintendo's very good at appearing like a very big company. I think even the likes of EA and Ubisoft might be bigger than them.
Really?
Yeah. just relatively in terms of profit. But Nintendo is very good at coming up with weird ideals and framing themselves as the family friendly gaming company. And part of that strategy is every once in a while they try to do things to get their players to be more active and just be on that bandwagon with Michelle Obama and getting these people in shape. That you saw that with the Wii, which was a big part of it, where they had more active games, they pushed more movement. You even saw that they had screens to tell you, hey, go outside, don't play all day. And even with Pokemon, I want to say, not Pokemon, with the 3DS, it has so many warning screens, partly because it's a 3DS with a 3D device, but it has so many warning screens to tell you to pace yourselves. And so Pokemon Sleep might just be Nintendo trying to, again, push that family friendly agenda of just saying, hey, we want you to have a good night's sleep. Here's a great way to push people to get um, sort of more active, because you do want people to have better sleep schedules.
Right.
And
Sure.
so you could see a very good, especially depending on how well they get it, you could get a very good schedule where during the day you go out, you play Pokemon Go, you get very active. When you get tired, you come home, play some Sword and Shield, get a nice rest in, and some Pokemon Sleep, wake up, do it again.
And it's basically what Nintendo and Game Freak are doing. They're trying to monopolize your time and just saying, hey, here's an option that our competitors aren't necessarily giving you, such as when you're on like a YouTube, you eventually have to stop. Like you can't watch it all the time. Except with like Pokemon Go, you can play it when you're at work. You can play it when you're on your break. And it's just like once you're done at work, school, wherever you are, you can go to your house. You can play or play it on the Switch. Play Sword and Shield on the Switch. Then oh wait, and then there's sleep, and then it's still going as you sleep. So it's just basically a way for them to not monopolize your time. That's pretty extreme, but it's a way for them to hold your attention.
And you also gotta think about how prolific they are becoming as a company. Like Marcus, do you remember when Pokemon Go first came out?
Right.
Everybody was playing it. You go outside, you see people. Do you remember like that feeling of like walking down the street, seeing somebody's phone, and being like, "We're playing the same game." Like, what's up?
Or even just going around the same area and battling in certain gyms, and then people like following you around to beat your Pokemon. But yeah, no, definitely, I feel like they're trying to restore that feeling.
And that is a feeling that Nintendo and Pokemon especially has always been able to have, especially for me, because with the 3DS, since it is a portable system, one of my favorite things would be whenever a new Pokemon game would come out. I usually tended to travel. I remember it was like one Thanksgiving, I think Ultra Moon or Moon had come out. I'm on the train, I'm walking down, I see somebody with 3DS playing the same game. I'm like, oh yeah, I know that person. I know what they doing. I know what they playing. And I feel like Nintendo, especially with the Switch, like I feel like one of the big things people don't think about when you're talking about a mobile platform is just the fact that everybody who's playing the platform turns into an ad for that platform. You go out and you're playing the game on the train and people are going, hey, man, that game looks awesome. Let me play that. And that's something you don't get with like a PC or an Xbox or a PS4 because it's in the house and no one's seen it unless they're coming over your house.
No, for sure. Yeah, no, definitely. Great insight with all of that. But we're not here. If you read the title, it's Pokemon Direct. It's the latest Pokemon Direct of this year. It's the second.
Yeah.
It's the second one, and it was all dedicated to Pokemon, the upcoming games, Pokemon Sword and Shield. Now, first and foremost, we finally got a release date.
November 15th.
November 15th, 2019.
Which people guess.
Yes.
It's always usually come out right before Black Friday. Pokemon owns November the way COD wishes it owned November.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so do you want to jump right into it, or?
Yeah, let's talk about the Pokemon they announced first, and then the new mechanics they showed off later. Okay. So, what did you think of the brand new Pokemon they showed off? I know you wrote down their names. They are
Wooloo, the sheep Pokemon.
Did you like it? I thought it was pretty adorable.
I do think it was pretty adorable, but I feel like PETA is going to have a field day with that just because of its description and how the town that it's usually populated at uses its fur as like the material goods. So
I mean, PETA's taken shots at Pokemon before. They
yeah,
never
no,
hit
for
anything.
sure. It's not, and this is definitely going to heighten that. Next we have Gossifleur, who is a flowering Pokemon, and it's most likely, this was my guess from my notes, it is a plant / poison. We also had Dreadnought, the bite Pokemon.
Now, hold on. Going back to Gossifleur,
Yeah.
they did show off its evolution.
Yeah, but they showed off the evolution later.
All right.
So next up is Dreadnought, the bite Pokemon. We're assuming it's a rock type.
It's not.
It's not?
Or steel. I believe it's like steel
or normal.
I gotta check online, but it's like
and it bites through steel, iron, steel, and you have to be an experienced trainer to come across it. So
honestly, looking at that looked like it might be this generation's big dragon type Pokemon, which would be, if it is, would be surprising because that's usually one of the last Pokemon they show off.
Yeah, and the second to last one was Corviknight, which is a dark flying Pokemon. And
from what we assume, it might. We gotta check online.
Yeah, no. That's just my. These are all just my guess.
And
now, the interesting thing about the Corviknight is that once you catch it and you go to certain places, instead of having to learn fly,
you don't have to catch it.
Oh, okay.
It's just gonna.
Oh, it's a taxi. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Marcus, you don't know this, but for the past few years, Pokemon has been feverishly trying to get rid of specifically the different HMs. HMs have basically been nerfed into oblivion. So in Ultra Sun and Moon, they had it where you basically had every HM on a D-pad. You hit the D-pad, you had a Pokemon who would use Strength, you had a Pokemon who would ride you, you'd have Lapras and all that. It was very interesting, and I really liked it in the animations that were toggled with it. However, what I would say, and what I did notice that was very interesting, was they said at specific locations, this Pokemon will taxi you. And that to me is interesting.
And they said it will taxi you to previous towns that you have already visited.
Which is normal, except for the ideal that it's only going to be at specific locations. Because that to me says they're taking away quick travel. Which is something that is feverishly, in the open world community, it's feverishly debated if it is a good ideal. There's lots of people out there who don't like the idea of quick travel, and they hate it, and they say it breaks up and breaks the immersion of open worlds, and that game developers should try to cut down on that as much as possible.
For sure.
So in this way, we see Pokemon, who normally stays out of this conversation, actually taking a step in the direction towards getting rid of quick travel.
Right. No, for sure. And the next Pokemon that they introduced was Gossifleur's evolution, which is Elder Goss, and it is a healing. My assumption is that it is a healing plant type Pokemon.
Healing plant type is not a thing.
Yeah, but it's a healer and it's a plant. So
they're just plants. There's no healer.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so yeah. And so the main new mechanism but the not mechanics, but the area that they brought in was the wild area.
Yes.
And I think that's going to be super huge because it's taking elements. If you got onto Pokemon during the Pokemon Go phase and you were just happened, and if Sword and Shield is your first Pokemon generation game, the wild area will be a great place for you to come acclimated with the game. And even they're going to have raids and other things like that.
Going into the wild area has a lot of interesting mechanics going around about it. Number one is specifically it's going to have roaming Pokemon.
Right.
Which, for those of you guys who don't know, is what Let's Go was, which is where Pokemon roam around the world and you can see them.
Yeah.
Which is something people loved from Let's Go. And however, I think the Pokemon company, I think they took a middle ground with this. Because if you listen specifically to the trailer, they say in the wild areas, this is what's happening. So what I take that to mean is saying in the wild area, which if you look at from what they've shown and the map that they showed us when they announced it, it's a massive area. It's a massive part of the map. Specifically that area they're going to roam, and everywhere else it's going to be a random traditional capture, which I think is a great middle ground that they found
Yeah,
and will really shake
and
up.
and the interesting thing about that is when you're in the wild area, you finally get the opportunity to control your camera.
Yes.
And just with previous generational games, you weren't able to control
it
where
has
you
a
looked.
fixed camera.
Yeah, and
Now-
so you will be able to actually point toward direction. Like, let's say, like normally if you like see a Pokemon and you walk by, you have to turn right or back around. But with this, you can finally swing the camera to the pan left, pan right, and you can finally see the Pokemon that past you.
I will be interested, however, to see. Now, they specifically said this is going to be the wild area. However, I wonder if they are going to put it in the other areas. Because they did say it's going to be designed with hiding things. And
Right.
basically, the reference people have been making for the wild areas is calling it Pokemon Breath of the Wild. In
Okay.
reference to Zelda Breath of
yeah.
the Wild. Which is something a lot of people have wanted for quite some time.
Right.
And I feel like this might be the Pokemon company dipping their toe in the water, testing it out, and for another Pokemon game specifically, because they do have Pokemon Home, they want to keep that going. They could easily make a Pokemon spin-off series that's in more line with this ideology of a Let's Go or
Yeah,
Pokemon Breath of the.
for
They
sure.
wouldn't call it Pokemon Breath of the Wild. I feel like even Nintendo would be upset at that. They call it Pokemon Open or something like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. But moving on, so the new feature that is going to happen this year is Dynamaxing.
Now, Marcus, you weren't there for the past few generations, right?
Right.
However, in the past few generations, they've brought in two mechanics that have been a bit contested. The first one is Mega Evolutions. Did you?
Yeah, no, Mega Evolutions was in Let's Go.
Yeah. Now, Mega Evolutions, a lot of people like them. It's very popular. You get a redesign of Pokemon, they become stronger.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like them, specifically because it basically makes already powerful Pokemon even stronger.
Well, it was like, with the Mega Evolutions, it isn't for everybody, but by the time you get to the Pokemon that you want to Mega evolve, they're already strong. Like, such as like a Charizard.
Yeah.
Like, that's already a strong Pokemon on its own, but when you Mega Evolve it, it's like, okay, that's something expected. Even with like your Mewtwo, when you Mega Evolve that makes sense as well. Even like Blastoise or Ivysaur and all that. So it definitely makes sense.
It makes sense, but competitively, it basically means that every single time this Pokemon is going to be in the team, you're going to Mega Evolve it. Because there's no punishment for Mega Evolution.
Yeah, but with Dynamaxing, so it happens
Hold on, wait. There's still one more thing I want to hit on.
Okay.
The other thing was Z moves, which not a lot of people like, but they were basically just flashy, overpowered moves.
Mm-hmm.
So what I say and what I see when I see this Dynamaxing, which is basically your trainer,
Right.
you take the Pokemon in for 3 turns, you make them extremely giant, you power up their moves. So it seems like the Pokemon company made a fusion of Mega Evolution and Z moves.
Okay. And the thing with Dynamaxing is it only happens in certain areas where Pokemon grow. And so basically, like, let's say you have a Pokemon that has the ability to Dynamax, but you're in an area where it can't, you're still at a disadvantage. And so that also brings into like the strategy of it. Like, you can't just like hope and say, oh, I'm gonna use this Dynamax, such as when you can use a Mega Evolution.
Yeah.
And it also it boosts his powers. All the moves turn to maximum powers. And here's the key thing. So with Mega Evolutions, they stay in that form, but with Dynamaxing, they revert back to their original size after three moves.
And I love that because with Dynamaxing, I'm already seeing a massive amount of just my brain already thinking massive amount of strategy in this.
Right. No,
it's
for sure.
only 3 turns. So are you going to, if your opponent Dynamaxes, are you going to match their Dynamax?
Yeah. No.
Or are you not going to do that,
storm?
weather that out, and then Dynamax?
And
which Pokemon are you going to Dynamax?
Mm-hmm.
When are you going to do it? Do you want to start out? Do you want to end with it? I'm already seeing a massive amount of potential for this, not only competitively speaking, but giving like Pokemon that don't tend to get play or aren't particularly powerful a way of being usable in traditional battle.
No, for sure. And this goes on because there have been a few complaints since the past few years about the skill level of the Pokemon games and just how like it gets easy after a while. So this is another way that with this strategy it does give trainers the opportunity to strategize and make sure that they are straight, and not only that they're straight, but that they have the right Pokemon to win the battle.
It will be interesting to see if they. I know a lot of people have been asking for difficulty
Right.
choosers. It will be interesting to see if if they implement that. I don't think they will though.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. So this is a first in any generation. This is the Max Raid Challenge, and if you are familiar with Pokemon Go, raid challenges are basically a bunch of people facing one Pokemon at the same time, and you're all battling. And so they're finally bringing that concept over to Pokemon Sword and Shield, and for the first time, you will be able to battle the same Pokemon with your fellow trainers, and you can do it locally and wirelessly as well. And so that also, not only is that an incentive for you to develop a community with Pokemon gamers, but also man, I lost my train of thought. But develop a community, but also develop relationships as well. And I feel like that is a way to they're trying to build the Pokemon community.
Well, the Pokemon community doesn't need building.
And also, sorry, this was it. This is also the opportunity for Nintendo to maximize their Nintendo Online service.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What I will say with this, and many people have said it, again, this is Nintendo. And Nintendo is great at making games. They are awful at online. Yeah. And at every step of the way, they seem to come up with a problem.
Yeah. No.
So we'll be interested. However, that is to say, Game Freak and Pokemon have done an online Pokemon game good before.
Yeah.
So it is I am interested to see what they do with that.
Yes, and so it is a 4-player gameplay, so that's interesting as well. And I already said connect locally and wireless. But next up, some of the characters that will be in Pokemon Sword and Shield. So we have the current champion, Leon.
Oh my gosh, did you see his pants? What is that outfit?
Hey,
what is that outfit?
Swag by any means.
No.
But Leon is undefeated. He's the most prominent trainer in all of the Galar region. And we have if you're playing the game, we have your rival, who is Hop.
About to hop on your girl.
He is Leon's younger brother. He wants to become champion someday as well. And his journey begins the same day as yours.
Everybody trying to steal your sign.
And next we have Professor Magnolia, Millie Rock on any block. He is the professor of the Galar region. My mistake. She is the professor of the Galar region, and she specializes in the Diamondx phenomenon. And finally, we have Sonia, who is Professor Magnolia's assistant.
Yes.
Now, this is something interesting that I feel like wasn't highlighted enough. The Pokemon gyms. And so, normally gyms are just gyms, but it seems like this one, they are taking the what was the Nintendo 64 Pokemon game? Pokemon
Stadium.
They're taking that stadium concept and they're putting the stadiums as gyms. And
yeah, because you saw
excellent.
Massive. Yeah. They had this. One of the things I really enjoyed with the Dynamax, and I think because they are going a whole sports thing with the Europe UK ideal, and so you saw this massive crowd arena. You heard the crowd, and then you saw them like Dynamax, and they throwing out attacks. It felt very epic. It made me literally, as I was watching it, I was just sitting there singing the Attack on Titan theme song, just da 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 da. Like it felt very like live and powerful, and that's what I really enjoyed about those gyms. Because in the past, gyms have always seemed like a solitary ideal, but now, especially if they bump up the difficulty, it will be very cool because you're not just, if they bump up the difficulty and you lose to the gym leader, you're not just losing in front of like 5 of his people and like a couple crowd members that they happen to put in. Like this is a massive crowd. You lost in front of the entire public. So I'm really interested to see how they implement these gyms.
Yeah, no, for sure. And also, I know this probably would not even happen at all, but for you to have a phone option, and no, not phone, but social media, and then you can check social media after the game, and it says, bum, trash, you suck, or the greatest ever, such as that, such as like, playing on the type of fandom that fans have when it comes to their sporting teams or favorite players. Now, last but certainly not least, we are at our legendary Pokemon. So, Pokemon Sword and Shield, of course, it has a legendary Pokemon for Sword, and it has a legendary Pokemon for Shield. So, Sword's Pokemon is Zacian, who is basically a Pokemon with a sword, who carries a sword in its mouth.
Dark Souls reference.
If that isn't fire enough, what type of Pokemon do you think it is? So I was getting water fighting wolf vibes.
Definitely is gonna be a steel type. Definitely probably go with if they want to go. See, here's the thing.
Right.
They have done sword-based Pokemon in Black and White. They had a Three Musketeers reference for some reason with the Swords of Justice, and those Pokemon tended to have steel mixes. I would say for that Pokemon, it depends on the theme, but I would honestly just go with either a pure steel type or a steel mixed with something interesting like a dark or dragon type.
I could see it being a water dark type, just because I know that's not a popular combination, but just because it is a wolf and it looks wolf like, and it is blue, and so that could be a key giveaway.
Maybe because here's the thing, again, you're going with a sword.
Right.
If they want to give that Pokemon any of the sword moves like Sacred Slash or any of the like good sword moves, it's gonna need a steel type to take full advantage of them.
Right. Well, we'll see. And next Pokemon for Shield will be Zamazenta. That's not. We messed up that pronunciation. Zamazenta. Okay. And that is a Pokemon with a shield, and it is a defensive Pokemon. Just from the shield type, but it looks like a fire type. And so I got a lot of like fire defensive.
I feel like you're switching this around. Fire's an offensive.
No, and I think that's the genius of it. Because typically water is more defensive and fire is more attack. But they reverse it so that you have water as the attack and you have fire as the defense. I think that's brilliant.
We'll have to see on the legendaries. Since we've gotten to the end of the podcast, have you switched sides, or which what copy do you want to get, and what is your starter?
Oh, so I'm definitely going to get the bundle so that I have both copies of the game. And my starter will of course be Score Bunny, and for one, and my starter for the other game will probably be I'd probably go with the grass type. Actually, no, I wouldn't go with grass type. Water.
Which game will you play first?
I'll probably play Sword first.
Well, I'm probably gonna get Sword.
Okay.
And of course, I am Sobble Game.
So yeah. No, definitely. So that was it for our Pokemon Direct reflection review. It's summertime, it's grind time. We don't sleep over here. We are a machine. Make sure you are checking out all of our Denver Pop Culture Con 2019 content. We still have a lot more coming out. We have a Serenity Forge interview coming out. We have vlogs coming out. Make sure, if you haven't already, check out our interview with R. Allen Brooks, the writer of The Burning Metronome. Definitely. We just want to thank you for the support. Also, please, comment, subscribe. And if you give us a 5-star comment on any podcast platform, we will read it out loud regardless of what it says. So, make sure you are following us on social media. Follow me at OneMarcusFlowers. Follow Morgan at MetroMeta. Follow 26 and Glencoe on all social media platforms. Follow us on Twitter at 26andG. Follow us on Instagram at 26andGlencoe. Like our Facebook page at 26 and Glencoe Media Network. Make sure you are following our YouTube page as well. Make sure you subscribe and you hit that alert button so that you know when new content drops. That is at 26 and Glencoe Media Network. Anything else to say, Morgan?
Nope.
All right, and until next time, peace.